This episode is brought to you by Bureau, our title sponsor. With 8 vibrant locations in Miami's best neighborhoods, Bureau is the perfect co-working place to work, network, and thrive alongside other entrepreneurs, creatives, professionals, and local businesses. Find your space at bureaumiami.com.
It's really amazing to be back on campus. I was a student in the MRAD program, and many moons ago, I graduated in 2012. The advisory board has always been something that I've leaned on, and so it's amazing to have folks like Dan up on the podcast with us. And if you guys are in the program or considering joining the program, it's an incredible not only program, but the advisory board. They're super engaged, and so we thank you for taking some time and having a cocktail with us on a Friday afternoon, Dan.
Thank you for having me, first of all. Second of all, how has it worked out for you, or has this put you into a podcast business instead?
Well, this is the side
about development.
This
right?
is the side hustle. Thanks for asking.
Okay.
Ben and I are actually brokers, and we're focused on industrial. So that's our
That's a good
our
space.
shtick. That's our full-time job.
Oh, okay.
And podcasting is something that we use as an opportunity to really get to know people in the industry, and I think most importantly is learn from them. And so I don't know how familiar with the podcast, but we're gonna it's all about you, and we want to take it back to day one, even before that. And really learn about how you've got to be the person that you are today. And so are you a Miami OG?
No, I'm not. No.
Where are your parents from?
Whoa, you're going.
Hold on, we're jumping the gun.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, everyone. Thank you for
Okay.
joining us. Feel free to grab a cocktail in the middle. We got a bar over here, so cheers.
Oh, that is good.
It is good.
Yeah, we got some spicy tequila over here.
Yeah,
What are you drinking, Brian?
that's quite a complex story. When you go back to my parents, I won't go all the way back, but
Please.
my parents were from Israel. They both were from different countries. My mother was born in Romania, and my father was born in Egypt, believe it or not. Back in the day, my grandfather, who was born in Jerusalem, it was under the Ottoman Empire, and a lot of the they used to take Jewish kids, actually put them into the army when they were really young. So my great-grandparents said, let's go to Cairo, and hence my last name, actually, believe it or not, my last name is translated to Kodsi, which means from Jerusalem. In Arabic, Quds is Jerusalem. So, which actually my wife was born in Jerusalem, so she always makes fun of the rest of the family, saying I'm the only one who's actually from Jerusalem. The rest of you were born somewhere else. But they met in Israel, and then my brother actually was born in Israel, and then they immigrated to Montreal, to Canada at the time. That was while they were starting the process of coming into the United States. Canada had better immigration policies at the time. Now we're going back to the 60s.
And there's a really big Jewish population in Montreal.
Yeah, I mean, it was reduced since then. It was even bigger back then, but because of, not to get into French politics in the 1970s, but at the time they turned it from an English-speaking city to a French-speaking, province, Quebec. It wasn't actually at the time. It was more international, and it was actually, English was a major language there, but then they forced everyone. They even had, I don't know if you know anything about it, but they have French police. Like, they actually will fine you, and you'll get in trouble if you're not using French in your business and everything else. That's how bad it was.
Canadians love rules.
Yeah. Well, again, I was a little over 9 years old when I left, actually almost 10, a few weeks before my 10th birthday, and I didn't even know we were leaving, but that's a different story. Had a crush on that was in 4th grade. I had a crush on this girl. It was 3 weeks before my birthday.
Your heart was broken at that age.
No, it wasn't even that. It was 3 weeks before my birthday. I was going to maybe tell her something. I don't know what 4th graders tell a girl, but we were on the swings together, I think. It was quite a time, and then my father's like, we're up and leaving, we're moving to Florida. I'm like, what? It's my birthday in 3 weeks. What are you talking about?
And I got a date.
Yeah, I got this whole birthday plan. But yeah, so that was pretty upsetting, actually, for a 9-year-old.
And you guys moved to Miami.
No, so we actually moved to Central Florida. So I grew up so there was an opportunity in the Space Coast. There was believe it or not, it starts with a real estate deal. It was a distressed real estate deal, 1978. My uncle and father put some money together and bought this distressed, 3-story building.
Multifamily?
Yeah, multifamily project.
Was your dad doing real estate in Montreal?
He was doing a lot of things, but he built a couple of houses up there, and so he was somewhat into real estate. He dabbled in real estate. Actually, his business was textile business. So he was doing textiles. He started dabbling in the real estate. Screws over a 9-year-old, moves him over to Florida, and I grew up, believe it or not, in Central Florida, and I went to.
Sorry to hear that.
You know what? It was actually a great lifestyle. I grew up in Cocoa Beach, Florida.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah. I graduated from Cocoa Beach High School, which, believe it or not, is actually it's a public school, but it's actually a ranked school if you look at it.
Yeah.
It's actually really. I was shocked because when I came down here, I remember my friends. I don't know if you know this part. I went to University of Miami. That's how I ended up down here. But I remember friends that went to Pinecrest and these fancy schools, or St. Andrews, Pinecrest, I remember, and they didn't know more than me, and I was in public school.
Yeah.
It was not. They weren't. As a matter of fact, I felt that I was better educated than them. But I surfed with Kelly Slater, if anyone's in surfing.
Did you
I was going to say, he's from Cocoa Beach.
Yeah. So Kelly was, his older brother, Sean, was in my grade. And, people always laugh because I say, when you have your friend's older brother and you pick on him.
Well, hold on. We got some young kids here, or students here, so let's tell them who Kelly Slater is.
Yeah.
It's like, go ahead.
Kelly Slater is like I'm going to say, I don't know if they know Michael Jordan, but he's like the Michael Jordan of surfing.
The goat of surfing, right?
He's the goat of surfing, yes. He is the, he pretty much broke every record and was, worldwide known surfer. If you're a surfer, when I tell people surfers, I used to surf with, Kelly Slater.
Yeah.
They fall out of their chair. I mean, they're like, what? There's no way.
That's awesome.
I'm like, are you kidding? He was my friend's little brother. I remember throwing things at him and picking on him because, he was, you pick on little brothers. So it was a funny story that I still keep in touch with some of them, actually.
Was he good back then?
He was, even then as a kid, he was winning all we used to have contests at the pier and so he was even then already known to be a good surfer, even when he was in middle school. That's how good he was back then. But no one imagined he was going to become, what he became.
Yeah.
But this is about me. So no, I'm kidding.
Ben, you know what they say in real estate? If people don't know you, they're not doing business with you.
Exactly. That's why the Built World podcast works with top-of-mind public relations, because being a best-kept secret sure doesn't pay the bills.
Paula Uspa Abbott, the brains behind Top of Mind PR, is a former real estate journalist, so she knows exactly what makes the media pay attention.
And let's be real, getting in the press isn't just about bragging rights. It's about building credibility, landing deals, and making sure the right people know your name.
Whether it's top-tier media coverage, killer storytelling, or just making sure you're the one people think of first, Top of Mind PR has you covered.
Want to stand out? Hit up topofmind-pr.com or email info@topofmind-pr.com.
Because in real estate, if you're not visible, you're invisible. So you grew up in Cocoa Beach.
So yeah, I went there and then
and your dad was doing deals down.
So they were
Cocoa
doing
Beach.
So my uncles and my father were doing really small little 4-story buildings. Again, that was really what you did.
Were they buying existing or were they building new?
No, they were building oceanfront. So they had these little 4 or 5-story oceanfront condos. These were, catwalk buildings, what you see in, Central Florida.
Yeah.
And so I actually, you say, where did I start? I was 10 years old. I was making $2 an hour working with a guy named Willie. Big black guy, nice guy, and he used to. I remember he used to cake the copper. I don't know why, but I guess he was making money off stealing the copper from the plumbers. Well, he didn't steal him. He took the extra copper. He probably stole some too. Who knows? But And so I was making $2 an hour. He was making $3 an hour. It was tax-free, by the way. So like by 10 years old, I think I saved $120, which took you a long way for, football and baseball cards that you didn't have to ask mom to buy you, right? But I did that actually every summer. By the time I was 16 years old, I was actually doing construction supervision on a job.
For your dad?
Yeah, it was my uncles and my father. They were all partners. There were some other partners as well, but but I did that. And working construction definitely makes you want to go to college, and you don't want it. It's not a job that I was very good at, even though I did a lot of it when I was young. And so I came here to UM.
But let's just back it up real quick. So in high school, I mean, you were into surfing. What other
I was
sports?
surfing probably more in middle school. By high school, I was playing basketball and football.
Okay.
I was
Were you any
mostly a
good?
football player. I mean, I was a starter on not a great team, but I was pretty good, I think. You know what? It's funny. When I came to Miami, Jimmy Johnson was the coach, and I don't remember the assistant coach's name, but I remember meeting with him. My buddy and I met with him to see if we could be walk-ons, and he said, he goes, you could be a dummy in practice, and you're not dressing up for games. I mean, this is by the way, this is Michael Irvin's on the team, right?
Yeah. What year is this?
1987.
1987.
So this is Michael Irvin. It was right after Testaverde. It was Jim Walsh actually was the quarterback, and but I said, I'm not gonna. I just don't want to be a practice dummy, right? So, but I was a pretty good player in high school. I mean,
were you a good student in high school?
No.
No?
I would definitely. I mean, I went to the University of Miami. No offense. I mean, back then it was still a good school, not what it is today.
And what subjects were you good at?
Oh, I was more of a math guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. English was not my thing, but I mean, if you want to look back,
Math
definitely
was your strength.
math. Yeah, I got a real estate finance degree here, and there was also a minor in there was a program called Urban Planning and Architecture, so it had some urban planning courses and architecture courses. So I did go here to the School of Architecture.
So you took some classes here.
I did some classes here, not a full architecture degree.
Yeah.
That was a lot more challenging, but I did that. But then really my BBA was in real estate finance.
So when you came to UM and started taking classes here, were they already starting to teach some of the principles of new urbanism?
So they did, yeah. So new urbanism really kind of hit it in the 90s, and I was really a big proponent of new urbanism, hence how I ended up in building mixed-use, urban type developments. When I started my career, there was no demand for city-type mixed-use developments. Miami, forget it.
Yeah.
There was no. It wasn't until I think late '90s, Ugo Colombo I think built the first building in Brickell. I'm saying there was other buildings, but I'm talking where they started building that level of condo. A higher level. But I was building single-family homes. Single-family home communities. So these were anywhere from 100 to 150 homes in the community, and apartment communities. You're about to ask something.
Yeah, so just to back it up, so you're going to UM, what was it like studying in the 80s at UM? I mean, you were here in 87 when Michael Irvin is here. Were you a party boy? Did you decide to be a good student? Were you partying at the Mutiny like all the other advisory board members that are here?
Yeah, party where?
At the Mutiny.
At the Mutiny.
The Mutiny. I missed a party at the Rat too here locally, right here on campus. I had some pretty funny stories from the Rat, but I can tell you that all day long. Was I a partier? I was probably the partier.
Yeah, nice.
I was an animal back then. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, this is now. I'm glad my wife's not here because she starts to giving me a look like, don't more, don't say another word. Yes.
So when you were
if I ever showed you pictures of what I looked like in college, you'd be like,
oh, we gotta dig those up.
Huh?
We gotta dig those up.
Yeah, I got a couple on my phone.
So you were here when they won a national championship then?
Two
of them. Wow.
Two, and then the year after I graduated, another one.
Dang.
Yeah.
What a run.
Yeah.
Yeah, 87 season, won national championship. 89 season, won national championship. And then 91, even I graduated in 91, but that season, we won national championship as well.
Dang.
So,
What a
yeah,
time to be
I
in.
had a lot of fun
Yeah,
here at
I
UM.
bet.
And I was, I know I listened, before I listened to a couple of your podcasts, not going to mention people, but it's funny when you hear developers are either doing fake IDs or promoting nightclubs, and I'm like, okay, well,
What kind of
fits the bill.
What kind of illegal shit were you doing, Dan?
What type of what?
Illegal shit were you doing?
Yeah, I was doing all of that actually. I was very entrepreneurial, and no, I did anything. It's funny if you know, like Nikki Beach.
Oh, yeah.
Used to be called Penrod's actually
Yep.
back in the day. That's when they first built it, and I used to promote college night there, and you know.
Oh, so you were a promoter as well during.
I would consider myself a
but-
promoter, but
yeah.
I promoted to, you know.
So you
make
were
a few
bringing
extra dollars.
this is during college that you were.
Yeah, this was when I was.
So
here.
you were bringing.
Yeah, I was
co-eds
bringing-
over
I
to
was going out.
Penrod's.
Back then we used to
Yeah.
put flyers on cars
Yeah, yeah.
and whatever we needed to do to get kids to come in, and we get the cover or something. I don't remember what it was, some kind of deal like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I think they screwed me over later, but
And that's just hustle, right? Like there's no
was
social
just
media
hustle.
been there. It's like handing out
hustle.
flyers and.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying when you think of, guys like that develop, and part of the personality is promoting, hustling.
So you're a pretty social guy.
Yeah.
Fraternity boy too, or no?
I was, yes. Yeah. I wouldn't consider myself a fraternity boy, but I was part of a fraternity. At the time, it was SIGAP. So the year before, it was funny, the year before in '86, SIGAP was our suite. It was in Playboy magazine as they were talking about the top 10 party schools. And SIGAP was number 3 or something like that. I don't remember what it was, but I remember one of my fraternity brothers was in the picture, and so I'm like, I'm going to that fraternity. It was where the parties were.
Yeah.
That was one thing, it's funny, even to this day, we still meet for tailgates at UM games.
Oh, that's awesome.
And my wife's like, that's really like your friends are like really just a bunch of really good, nice guys. And I said, one thing we all had in common was we just wanted to party and have fun. That was really it didn't matter if you were Latin, if you were Jewish, that didn't matter. It was about getting together, having a good time, doing a lot of crazy things. I mean, that's definitely not for this. Probably not for any audience.
Are you Hank the Tank now, or who's Hank the Tank?
I definitely wasn't Hank the Tank. I was I was kind of a smooth operator. I was I was a little different than that. But it was a good time.
I bet.
Ben, you and I are all about PropTech, and if there's one tool we absolutely cannot live without for our commercial real estate brokerage business, it's Vista.
Absolutely. Vista is incredible. We use it every single day, and we're always wondering, how do they do this? Every evening we get an email from them with real-time closed transactions. No more waiting around for months for the property appraiser to finally update.
Yeah, whether you're doing industrial, retail, office, land deals, they have every closed transaction. And it's not just the speed, Ben. The details are on point. Seller and buyer info, contact details, phone numbers, emails, everything is accurate.
It's hands down our top prospecting tool to farm for warehouse deals in Hialeah. Vista keeps us one step ahead always. It's also the best way to search for comps when putting together opinions of values for clients.
Head on over to Vista.com and use code BuiltWorld and get 30 days free access today. VIZZDA.com.
Did you know what you wanted to do going to college? Like, did you go in being like, I want to get into the real estate industry, or kind of what was your vector, your direction when you were in college?
No, I was always interested in architecture. To this day, I design most of my projects, and I have 3 architects, 2 architects and urban planner rather, on my staff. And so when I show up to architecture firms, I show up, so usually when you go to an architecture firm, they present. I actually show up and we present to the architects because we just do the design and then we let them. Now, a lot of it is driven by the fact that, having the right product. So, a lot of architects want to design something that has this great appeal, maybe street appeal and everything, and that's important. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you see some of the project I've built; they have a lot of street appeal. But for me, it was about what's the product we're selling. Today it's more about what's the product, and we can dress it up later. But what is the components of the project, and how does that tie to pro forma, and how are you going to make this thing work? And I'm telling you, today in real estate and development, you got to tweak these things down because it's a lot of people here, it looks a little glamorous when you see development, but it's a tough business.
Death by a thousand cuts.
Yes, it's a very, very tough business. You got to know what you're doing. I see a lot of new type developers that suddenly they call themselves developers, never actually built anything, and they're always. Everything's always perfect for them, It's like, yeah, but you haven't built anything yet. It's perfect, right? When you're imagining it or envisioning.
Their Instagram looks great, though.
Their what?
Their Instagram looks great.
Yeah.
Every deal works on a spreadsheet.
Exactly. Yeah. Instagram, they got beautiful renderings, but when you got to execute, it's a different animal.
Yeah.
And I've executed a lot of projects. Between development, I've developed about 7,000 or 8,000 projects. I repositioned about 8,000 units, not projects. Repositioned about 3,000 units in the recession. So extensive development experience to where, like you said, death by 1,000 cuts. Now multiply that with averaging, about 7 or 8 projects at a time.
Yep.
It's a lot of things happen. Every project seems to have its fair share of problems, and so.
So you graduate though, and what happens? Do you dive into real estate? What does your first deal look like?
So I graduate. I start working with family. My uncles and father had a couple of projects that they were working. Again, they were working in a trailer. It's just a superintendent.
So this is 91, 92?
91, 92, yeah. And so I just cut my teeth on working on deals, learning the business, and it's very hard to work with family.
And you're back up in Central Florida working with
them? No. So they moved. No. So after I moved down, my mother was not staying in Central Florida. That was not for her. You can imagine, what Central Florida was like. Even today, what it's like, right? And so, so they moved actually to Boca in like 89, 90, right around there. So when I got out of college, they were working on a couple of deals here in South Florida in Broward County. And so I started, doing that. Started building a track record, and by the time I'm like 26 years old, I start raising capital and start building a company.
What are you raising capital for? What's your first deal?
I was doing, at the time, I had a single-family home project. It was part of a golf course community. It was 122 homes.
How'd it come to be? Like you just found a piece of land next to the golf course? You're like, we're going to build
No, it was part of a master plan project. I was working on another project with family nearby, so I knew the deal. But again, when I worked with family, they had a very, work out of the trailer, very small-minded. I wanted to build a company. I was always, wanted to build an organization. And so what's interesting about real estate development is when a project ends, it's not a company, right? The project ends and the deal's over, and then everybody can go their own way. And that's what I did. Around when I was 26 years old, I went my own way, started raising capital.
Is that when you started Royal Palm?
Yeah, so I set up Royal Palm everything, Royal Palm Management, Royal Palm Homes, Royal Palm everything in 92. So I used to do property management as well. I was managing multifamily. So I did that in 92. That's when Royal, and it wasn't even a name that I wanted. It was just, I was stuck with it because I had a project called Royal Palm. And so everybody just kept calling me Royal Palm. And so I was like, screw it, I'll just take Royal Palm and make it Royal Palm.
Just roll it in.
It was a lot of, it was like, why did you come up with Royal Palm? Like, honestly, I was always trying to change it, actually. I was trying to get out of using role. But I mean, it's a good name, whatever. It's good. It's old. It's established. What I liked about it was actually an older company from the 50s at the time. So people would relate that to this big old company. So I used to use that as well. It did open doors.
So what were the mechanics of the first deal? Because to me, that's always the most interesting when someone goes from working with family or at school to the first deal. And 100 plus single family homes is a pretty big swing for your first deal.
So again, I'm already working on with family. I worked on on a couple of deals. Now again, even with family, I went and started building the company. So when I did property management, there was some family assets that I was managing. When I did single family, it was because there was some capital that family had, so I was using that. But it was still, even when I was working with family, they never did more than one project, and I already had like 7 projects when I was working with the family. So I already was building a track record. By 26, I probably built like 400 homes already by then, and over 600-700 apartments. So I had over 1,000 units under my belt.
By the time you were 26?
When I'm 26,
Dang.
yeah. So I already, from 22 to 26 in 4 or 5 years, 26, 27, I had probably close to 1,000 units under my belt.
Talk about being an overachiever, huh, Ben? Especially after being a solid C student in high school, partying and you.
I wasn't a C student. Let's not go there.
Well, we took some liberties estimating your GPA.
By the way, I was Professor Houston. I don't know where she is. I was probably number 2 in her class, so in finance. So I was pretty good when I got to the stuff that I cared about. Let's just say.
But you were able to kind of parlay some of the family equity or whatever into other things.
No, there was no equity.
No?
No, I had to go.
That's the hardest part,
I had
right?
to start, yes. I had to start.
The equity is the hardest part.
I had to start at 0, literally at 0, because at the time, my uncles and father wanted to go do a deal, and they took all the capital and said, no, we're going to do this. If you want to go your own way, then you're on your own. And that was it. Like, you go your way, and we're gonna do another project.
So where'd you go find the equity?
I had to go raise it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you even start?
I was at the time, because I was already in the business. I was already talking to capital groups. I found a capital group out of Chicago. They liked that deal. I needed to bring my percentage of the equity, so I took one of my brother brought in a little bit. One of my good friends brought in some capital. So I had a couple of friends. We put the capital together. We brought in our piece of the equity. I think we had to bring up 20%. It was like an 80-20 deal.
That's a high percent. Normally it's like 5-10, right?
I'm sorry?
20% is a decent amount.
Of the equity.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It was like an 80-20 deal. So I had to come up with 20% of the equity. I had some of my own money. So we all put in the cash, and then I raised all the rest of the capital through equity and debt. And when single family homes, you pre-sell them, you build models, you pre-sell them, and then I was also the GC back then. I got my GC license in '92, so I built all the apartments, and now these are garden apartments, but I used to build them all myself. And I used to do the property management too. Yeah, I was a weirdly ambitious kid, and I don't know if it was weirdly, but it was a lot for someone my age to take on as much as I was taking on. But then I just kept raising capital, kept doing projects, and it was tough. There was a lot of, I'm not going to tell you I'm making it sound very glamorous, but there was times where, you think that's it, it's over. Like if I don't get to this next level or whatever it is. Or
a lot of sleepless nights.
I'm sorry?
A lot of sleepless nights.
Oh, yeah.
What was the first night? Where you were like,
oh, that's every night. I mean, and to this day, by the way.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
As long as you're in this business, you're like, oh, fuck every night. You literally it doesn't matter. There's so many moving parts. There's so many things that could affect you. In development, it's just so much. You're literally assembling. Especially. We're going to go back into the, my older stuff when you're building big high rises. Right? You're literally taking pieces of things from around the world and assembling it into this building. And so think of all the imperfections of what can go wrong in trying to assemble something like that. And the capital is always the most complicated part. And so, that was always and again, it was hard because you're young. I'm going back now again. You're young, I remember putting a PPM together, trying to raise a private placement memorandum, trying to raise capital through like a fund structure, and you put the ages of the CEO. The CEO's 28 or 29 years old. How many people want to invest? Like I think about like the funds I have today. I think, we raise more in a week than I raise, I think completely in this fund.
But at least back then you had the track record to lean on. That's helpful.
So it was, again, having my own track record and being able to build and execute projects was definitely helpful. And again, I did it, at the time, even my family, they didn't have the experience to go take on the type projects that I was taking on, even though at the time they were backing with the capital.
How'd that first project do? The master
Which
plan.
one?
The master plan community, the houses.
Master plan community, not well.
No.
Well, what happened was the master developer started competing with me, and so that really affected our ability to sell, because they had a master sales office, and this is where you get amateur mistakes, and it wasn't clear in our agreement that they were supposed to wait a year, which they did, but a year really, if you think about it when you're young, you're like, oh, a year, that's a long time. When you're only 27 years, sounds like forever. When you're my age today, I don't want to say it, but I'm sure if people can extrapolate how old I am, but when you're this age, like a year is a minute, in real estate. A year really is nothing in the world of real estate. But back then, you're like, oh, they're not going to compete for a year. Well, that year came quick, and they started competing with me, and it was very hard. So, yeah, everyone wants to hear the story, like, oh, no, I did it. It was great, and,
No, I don't hear that story.
I killed it.
That story's boring. I want to
So did you lose money on that deal?
It was bad. It didn't end well, no.
So you lost money on that deal?
We lost money, yes. I lost money. My equity group lost some money. I mean, we got out of it, but it was hard.
Yeah.
It was a hard deal to maneuver.
And so what was the next move to get out of that hole?
But again, I
or did you have other stuff going on at the same time?
But that was the thing. I started just working on more deals, and I had another 102 unit deal in Boca at the time, West Boca. I had another 70-unit deal in Boca. There was
These are all single-family homes.
These are single-family homes, yeah. So I was building that, and I was building apartments. I had some garden apartments in Broward. I started actually building in Southwest Florida. I saw that as a good market. So I like the other Florida markets as well. Today I build in Southwest Central Florida, Orlando, Tampa, Naples, Estero, Fort Myers, that area. Mostly like South Fort Myers, which is Bonita. I mean, people don't know, but like Bonita Springs, Estero. I don't have anything active right now, but I did probably a couple thousand units in that market.
Some of you might know that I'm in the middle of building a Live Local project right now, and finding an internet provider was way more annoying than it should have been. Endless acronyms, pricing all over the place, and me chasing these guys for proposals. Then luckily, I came across Celerity Fiber, South Florida's boutique internet provider for new developments and multifamily communities. Working with them feels like working with a company your friend owns. They actually answer calls and texts, send quotes fast, and are genuinely great to work with. Celerity designs and installs fiber internet built for modern living. Fast, reliable, and ready from day one. From luxury high-rises to affordable communities, they deliver high-speed, scalable internet with white glove service and local support. The kind big internet service providers just can't match. So if you want to future-proof your property and keep your residents happy, check out celerityfiber.com. It's spelled Celerity, fiber.com, and let them know the Built World sent you. Celerity Fiber, powering connections, elevating experiences. So what was it a straight up and to the right trajectory from building these master plan communities, or like what was the?
There's nothing straight up. I mean,
what was that like?
I mean, real estate is this,
Yeah.
I mean, eventually, right? You try to get there, and you're always trying to remember, like, I must have done well, because when you look at what you actually own and have, you're like, okay, something must have gone right, but you always think things are going wrong, right?
Wasn't that what Ray Dalio says? If you're worrying, you're okay. If you're not worrying, you need to worry.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. No, I'm worried plenty. It was, no, it was never straight up.
Yeah.
No, it was problems, always problems. But you know what you get? That's what's good about real estate. I always say you got to be in it to win it in real estate. And it's a long-term game. And you got to have a long-term mentality. In the long run, you're going to do very well. If you could stay, right? There's no such thing as distressed projects. There's distressed owners or distressed capital, or, you know what I'm saying? The project itself, long-term, is going to work. And so it's a matter of being able to have the firepower to stay into the deal, and get through. You know, I always tell people when and I go back in time now, in 2005, when we had this overheated market, it was an overstimulated market in 2005. And I always tell people, if you bought real estate in 2005, you bought a home, whatever it was, by 2008, you wanted to kill yourself. All your equity's gone. You probably 30%, 20 or 30% of your mortgage is probably underwater. However, if you bought that unit, right, in 2005, and you left on a spaceship and you never looked, and just assume it was rented, it was covering his, whatever it is, you didn't have to deal with it. And you came back in 2015, 10 years later, that unit was worth more than what you paid for it. And so the line does this, but it does that, right? And so as long as you can ride that line, you will go up, and real estate will rise. It's just, you got to be able to, when it does this, you got to be able to sit it and wait till it does that again, till it bounces. I mean, that's what happened in 2008. It was, we had this overheated market from 2003 through 2006. 2007, it had already started showing signs of weakness. And then there was an overcorrection. It was like a falling knife. I mean, values were just dropping. And I remember people by 2009 or 10 were like, oh, should we start buying? I'm like, no, it's a falling knife. You don't want to catch a falling knife. And it wasn't until 2011, 12 is where I started buying again.
But you were building single-family homes through 2009, or when did you?
No. I stopped doing that in the early 2000. By 2001, 2, I'm not doing any more single-family homes. I hated that business. It was a very tough business.
What killed it for you? Like what
it was just, it was a very, very, it was very labor intensive. And when you're the GC also, it's a lot of work. It was just a lot of things, you had different floor plans and different product. And so I wanted to get back into multifamily. As a matter of fact, by 2000, I launched really one of the first mixed-use deals, maybe in South Florida. It was, believe it or not, I was in West Palm Beach at the time.
Right off Clematis.
Yeah. Right off Clematis. The area was starting to heat up. You saw, this is what you were talking about earlier about new urbanism.
It was a condo project too, right?
It was a condo project. Mixed use, again, very small retail component with residential above it. But yes, it was a condo project. It was the first mixed use project that was ever built in the city of West Palm at the time. And so I started building that and building more apartments, and actually started veering away from single-family homes.
What made you get involved in
But I was also doing garden apartments, by the way. When I was doing single-family homes, I was also doing, low-rise garden deals.
What inspired the mixed use? Did you read Jane Jacobs the year before? Or?
No, it was my passion. That was when I got to UM, and when I went into the urban planning and architecture and everything, I used to drive down 395 here, so where Miami Worldcenter is. Mm-hmm. So it's funny, right, that I developed it. I used to eye that land in the 80s, like that's how far back. And I said, this isn't eventually in the path of development, but again, and I don't want to bore everyone, but, I'll try to give the 60-second version of the way cities were planned in the United States, post 20th century, right? Was that, so if you go pre-20th century, like New York, San Francisco, Boston, Chicago, they had they have certain forms of public transportation and everything else. But all post-20th century cities, Miami, Dallas, just go around Atlanta, were all built around the automobile. The concept was they're going to do a central business district. I mean, it's just not a very smart concept. Build a central business district, and then we'll build homes around it, and the people will live and they'll come work in the central business district, right? What happens is there was homes, and then they went out further, and they went out further, and they got so far that people couldn't make it to the central business district, and they started building offices in suburban markets, which, you know, we see all that today. Now, so it was very hard to start rebuilding urban downtowns. As a matter of fact, most cities to this day have not had a lot of success. And I mean, go to Atlanta, their downtown is not a robust downtown. Go to Orlando, you can go to a lot of cities. Miami works. First of all, one of the things Miami had, and nobody realizes, that we have two bodies of water. I mean, the Everglades is a body of water. And so we didn't have a choice. In the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, you know, people are like, oh, look at all these high-rise, look how many units they're building. Nobody realizes go drive Kendall and go drive thousands and thousands of units that we used to build, townhomes and single-family homes and garden apartment deals. And so we were building out all our suburbs till we ran out of land. And so then the only way to go was vertical. Miami had the best opportunity to go vertical because there was not a lot of opportunities to live in the central business district, and also the fact that we have a lot of foreigners living in Miami. So if you go anywhere else in the world, right, people live in apartments. They don't live in homes.
Yeah.
That's a very American thing, to live in a house, to go, you know, the picket white fence, that was the American dream. But go to any other country in the world, and the vast majority of people live in multifamily, some type of multifamily building. And so having that type of population here in Miami, I think, helped a lot in accepting living in you know, an urban. But go to the other cities around the U.S. Their downtowns aren't, like, if you took Miami, what Miami looked like in the 80s, right, and it looked like a lot of these other cities, they look a little bit different, but Miami is significantly different.
Yeah, Miami, I think, is the third densest city in the country,
yeah.
After New York and probably San Francisco.
No, Chicago, actually.
Oh, Chicago too. So we're probably fourth then, right?
No. It was New York, Chicago, Miami.
Oh, yeah?
San
Okay.
Francisco, I think, is behind us now.
So
I think it was tallest buildings, though. I don't know if it was urban, but tallest building.
You know, Felipe, ever since we moved into Bureau, my productivity has been through the roof. I mean, I might actually be getting things done for once.
The energy at Bureau just makes work fun. Plus, with 8 locations across South Florida, from South Miami all the way to Hollywood, there's no excuse for not finding a spot to get your shit done, Ben.
And we're not alone. Over 500 local companies call Bureau home. Everything from creative agencies and real estate firms to tech startups, law firms, and media companies. It's a melting pot of brilliant people, and we don't include ourselves in that category.
We definitely don't include ourselves in that category. Bureau really has space for anyone, whether you're flying solo or have a team. There are suites starting at 100 square feet all the way up to 2,000 square feet. They also don't try to lock you into long-term agreements, and everything is month to month.
Let's not forget the important stuff either. The coffee is top tier, staff is incredible, and has a very entrepreneurial vibe. It's not just a workspace, it's a place where work actually gets done.
That's right, Ben. So if you want to level up your workday like we try to do every day, check out Bureau. You might even catch us sipping some espressos between podcast sessions.
Or tequila.
Definitely tequila.
Tell Bureau the Built World sent you, and you'll get 50% off your first month's membership. See you out there. Cheers.
Later.
let me ask you a question because how do you feel about cities mandating retail on the ground floor? Because this could be, at times retail doesn't work. What are your thoughts on that?
Look,
because in Miami 21, retail, in most of the denser areas here, retail is required on the ground floor.
Now look, right? There's an old saying: retail follows rooftops. In this case, the rooftops are high rises. So even if you look at, go back in time again, if you go to the late 80s, if you can imagine this, there wasn't one restaurant you can have dinner in. Like, just go out for a dinner, not one restaurant in all of Brickell, all of downtown, and all of South Beach. If you can imagine that. Like, we couldn't even go out for dinner. If you wanted to go out to dinner, you had to go to Coral Gables, Coconut Grove. There was nowhere to go eat. First restaurant, I think, opened in South Beach. It was like you had the Clevelander, and then it was like one restaurant you can go eat out in South Beach. So so then what happened is, as bad as the recession was, it was probably one of the best things that happened, because we suddenly build thousands of units. The values go down because we get into this crash, right? So values go down significantly. The value of the dollar goes down significantly, right?
Yep.
And now you have this international buyers that came in and bought all these units at a very low price. They were able to rent them for lower prices, and that's what created this.
And they're buying it all cash too, these international.
I'm going back now to 2009, 10, 11, when we were getting out of the recession, but that's what made Miami, because we overbuilt and there was cheap inventory, we were able to fill all these buildings up, create a lot of density, a lot of people living here, and then retail follows rooftops, and that's what started creating all these restaurants and bars and everything that we have downstairs. Now, if you want to eliminate that, then what do we have? What are we walking by? Then what's the purpose of walking on a street? What's the purpose of when you go to Brickell now, there's people walking, in certain areas, where are they walking, right? Where do you see the pedestrian traffic? Around where all the restaurants and the retail and the activity is. Go down where Four Seasons is. There's nobody walking unless you're jogging, right? There's no one walking there because there's no retail. So it's clear that if you don't have activities on the ground, you're not going to be able to create this urban environment that the energy,
Yep.
I know people, like, we're building Miami Worldcenter, and at the time, the values of when I was building Paramount and they were building Flatiron, the values were exactly the same. However, when we finished the building and Miami Worldcenter wasn't finished, the Flatiron values went up significantly higher, only because of ground floor retail. Those Brickell City Centers too, but I'm saying having that vibrant retail created that whole, and when I finished Paramount, it was dead. The streets were, now it's different. The Apple Store opened, more restaurants opened, but at the time it was just dead. So people said, why am I going to live here? I got 4 restaurants that I can go live in Brickell. I have 40 restaurants to choose from, and that's a big difference. So I think it's important as part of an urban planning exercise to have something happening on the ground floor. And again, when you say retail is dead, yes, you don't go to Neiman Marcus anymore or Bloomingdale's to go buy clothes. You can buy a lot of that online or specialty stores. But there's a demand for, entertainment retail, right? People still want to go to Lululemons, and I didn't know anything about Sephora's until I had 3 daughters. And what the hell? I should have been in the makeup business. Holy shit, that's crazy. You could go to Sephora's and they bring this little thing. They're like, they're a little older now. They're like, Daddy, can I buy this? I'm like, that's $35. What is that thing? Like, what do you do with it? Like, you're gonna put eyeliner for $35? It's like, I couldn't believe it. But those are the things that work. Sephora works because, take my daughters are a perfect example. They love the whole walking in, you pick little things, and so there is.
It's experiential, yeah.
Yeah, there is, and that's really what it is. It's coming in, getting the experiential retail. I think we need to continue to do that. But why are you bringing that up? Do you think that's a burden on developers to have ground floor retail? Was that the reason you were asking about it, or?
I think it can be if it's in a market that doesn't support anything.
Yeah, it's sometimes retail is left empty.
Or turn into a gym.
What's that?
Or a gym. A lot of times developers will throw a gym in the
Well,
retail.
throw an amenity in it, right?
Right.
If it's in an area.
Right.
Listen, I'm a big proponent of mixed use, but there's an argument that why are we forcing developers to have certain uses there, right?
I get it, but look, if you really look at it from a percentage standpoint, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's such a small percent of if you're building a 30, 40, 50-story building, and you have, a small retail bay at the bottom that's 5,000 square feet, really, who gives a crap,
Yeah.
right? You can sell it, you can do nothing with it, and it's not going to affect the deal.
Yeah.
What was the retail you did in your Boca deal, the first mixed-use one?
And I was in downtown West Palm. You know what I did? What a lot of developers do? I just sold it. There was I think they did a furniture store there at the time. It was a little cafe, I think. It was something like that. But I sold it and got out of it. It was a condo unit.
And that was a condo project?
It was a condo project, and that was a condo unit that
Right,
was
retail
sold.
condo, yeah.
And what year was that completed?
2005. 3 maybe.
Okay, so that's the first taste that you get for mixed use. You like it. That was a successful project, I assume?
That was a very successful
Yeah.
project.
All
Yes.
right. So now we're making
I
money.
didn't have all bad projects. Just that first one was a little challenging, but that was a very successful project. Sold those really well. Built it. You know, it was funny at the time. My lender at the time was Bank of America, and I remember looking back. I couldn't believe it, but they used to give you 85% loan to cost. I don't know who ruined it for us, because we, when I think it was in 04, 05 when my insurance agent told me that he's a developer. I'm like, what do you mean? You're selling me insurance last week. How did you become a developer? And so I think that was what ruined it, because that pushed after the recession, the banks got pushed out of the deal. Now we got to deal with these New Yorkers. No offense to New Yorkers, but
Oh, we love to shit on New Yorkers.
All
by
the
way.
offense, all the offense to New Yorkers.
all the events, right?
We love to shit on New Yorkers, especially the post-COVID New Yorkers, right? The
No,
pre-COVID ones are better than the
I'm
post-COVID.
just talking about these bankers in New York that you have to deal with today, because you're dealing with these capital funds. It's not the old school bank. We literally go have lunch with the bank, and you were their client. They treated you like a client. You go to these New York lenders, they treat you like, I don't want to say it. But, it was the good old days, right? And like, I couldn't believe it when I look back. I'm like, man, I can't believe Bank of America was giving us 85% loan to cost. And not only that, when we had some I had the pre-sales, but even though I had some cost overruns, they increased their loan to fund the differential. And they put in their 85%, which is, today, if you have a cost overrun, forget it. The lender wants you're out of balance. You got to write a huge equity check. I mean, it's very adversarial today.
They were more of a partner back then.
Yeah, back then it was like, oh, Dan, listen, what do you need? Oh, we're a little over budget. Okay, no problem. We'll do an amendment, 3-page amendment. Today they go hire, one of these big law firms. The amendment is you're giving up your firstborn to do an amendment. So it's tough.
And at that point, when you built that mixed-use project, was Royal Palm a pretty big company by this point? Because that was your goal, right? You wanted to build an organization.
Oh yeah.
Where were you at on the trajectory?
I had probably 7 or 8 projects.
Okay.
I was building 2 single-family. I was mentioned, I think, in Boca. I still had those 2 single-family home deals in Boca. I had an apartment deal in Southwest, 2 apartment deals in Southwest Florida, another apartment deal in Broward. And I know I had other things going. I had these 4 luxury homes on the beach in Bonita Springs. Like, I had probably 8 or 9 different projects in different stages. So it wasn't just that. I mean, that was really kind of my foray into building mixed use.
And what did Royal Palm look like post that project?
Well, that's when I started, I was buying. Well, that's when I saw the opportunity in Miami. So I came down here. I imagine I'm eyeing Miami for years. 99, I came down here. 2000. So I struck in 2003. When I struck my first deal, but I was constantly looking. I remember.
What did you buy in
my office, where Epic is, and
Yep.
my office is there. What is it? The bank.
Wells Fargo building?
Mm-hmm. I'm in the Wells Fargo's building, and that whole area, that you could buy that entire site where all those deals were for pretty much nothing back then. There was no demand for it. It was all empty parking lots. And so I was eyeing it. I bought, actually in 2003, I was the first to buy. There was four blocks on Biscayne, starting with 700 Biscayne, which is right across the American Airlines.
Yeah, we'll still call it American Airlines.
Yeah, it's still the American Airlines arena.
Yeah.
Not the Condos Center.
Kasaya, whatever. They'll probably change names again. So I owned the 700 block, and when I bought it, it was like right before the market took off. Like the 800 block sold, which is Marina Blue, then the 900 block sold, and so everything just started selling right after it at significantly high prices. I mean, the value, if you want to talk about doing well, I mean, what I was buying real estate for, I was at the beginning. So I own about a third of the land in Miami Worldcenter at the time. So I was I bought the 700 block. I bought a lot of the land in Miami Worldcenter. And then I was selling some of it. As a matter of fact, in the 2000s, those early 2000s, Art Falcone, I'm sure you guys know Art.
Yeah.
I mean, you know Nitin,
Yeah.
right? Nitin was actually working in my office at the time because he was working with Art, and they were just starting to buy land there. And I said, look, and I knew Art we used to build single-family homes in Coral Springs, and we were in the same office building, so like I knew him back in the 90s. And I said, look, I'm a developer, you know, at the time, at the beginning first, we were trying to put blocks. Like everybody owned like a piece of a block, and so we were trying to put full blocks together. But then later I was just like, look, if you're buying these, why don't you just buy them and then, you know, we can develop them or I'll come develop them. And that was kind of the original conversation. And in the recession, that's exactly, so what happened was he was buying them. And then in the recession, he brought in CIM, and they bought all the rest of it. And at the time, I was happy to get out of it because I still had debt on one of the sites. And you know, at this point, after the recession, you just want a clean house, right? And then I came back to develop it, which is really what happened.
That's awesome.
To build the first phase of Miami Worldcenter, which was Paramount and this part of the super block.
And the 700 block, is that Grosskopf now?
That was, yes, I sold it to Grosskopf.
Okay.
Yes. At 2009, unwillingly. But I had a lender on there, and I should have held on to it, obviously. I knew it at the time, but...
He still has his sign on that site, I think.
He does, and, you know, I think after he built Fendi, he did so well on that one, it was like...
He's chilling.
Yeah, like, what are you going to make on this?
Yeah.
I'm like, it's a great site, but... who knows? Maybe I'll develop it one day. You know, I still have my rendering for it. I had a full design on that project. I have this beautiful rendering of a 700-foot tower for that site. Looks a little bit like Paramount, but not really. It was called at the time Paramount. I had Paramount Bay, which is built. I had Paramount Beach, which was where. Edward DeFortuna, he had Jade, right? So Jade 3, where the Jade 3 site is. And then I had Paramount Park, which was 700 Biscayne. So Paramount actually started back then. But, you know, the recession.
How did you approach the recession? Were you scrambling? Was it an opportunity?
Like every other developer. There wasn't anyone that survived that. You know, you see George Perez's name on this building, but we all got, I'm saying even at his level, he was dealing with some tough times. I mean, we all did. And so that was a disaster. I mean, imagine, it wasn't, by the way, forget about the real estate market. The real estate markets only crashed because the capital markets crashed. And capital is the fuel of real estate. I'm talking about commercial real estate. Like, that's the fuel. Without the fuel, you have nothing. And so whatever asset you were sitting on, it was useless. There was no capital due loan. There was no money. Imagine, again, I'm going to use names that people don't know, but Bear Stearns, Lehman Brothers, like, these were household names. To think Bear Stearns is not going to be in existence anymore, or Lehman Brothers, or any of these big, capital, they were huge. I mean, these groups all woke up one day and they were all sitting on worthless paper. I always tell people, like, when they're trying to understand 08, I said, imagine you buy a bunch of notes, right? You buy a piece of paper and you fill up a room this big, right? And it's just, if you looked at it physically, I know it's not physical, it's all digital, but if you fill this room up with pieces of paper and it's worth, I don't know, $50 billion, I'm making up a number, and then one day you open the door and you walk in the room and it's just a room full of pieces of paper.
Right.
And that's it. And that's all it was worth, nothing. There was no buyers for it. Everybody was sitting on the same paper, and there was no transactions anymore because the market fell apart. And so, I mean, these were mortgage-backed securities. Again, I don't want to bore anyone. They made a lot of movies on the 08 recession, but it was basically mortgage-backed securities. I mean, they gave my housekeeper a mortgage for $350,000. Like, she didn't even own. Never even thought of owning a house. $350,000 mortgage on a house that should have been worth $120,000, $150,000, or $200,000, And, it was...
put it in the C tranche and package it up and sell
Yes, and then they had side bets, and I mean, it was all
the
it
synthetic derivatives.
Yes, okay, all the derivatives. Okay, so you did your homework.
That's when I got into real estate.
Oh, okay, so you were there right after. So
I luckily didn't own anything going in.
Well, of course. It was always right. Like, how many positions are you? I remember a younger banker called me in COVID, and he said, all right, I've never, how was it in 08 sitting on your positions, and like, what do we do with our positions right now? Because like nobody knew what to do with COVID. And I said, it got ugly. I hope 08 doesn't repeat itself, but the capital markets got a lot smarter. You can't go and default. You can't be a lender or a bank and default half your clients, right? And create distress and not think the other half is not going to be distressed. So the entire market gets distressed. And so in COVID, the lenders were much smarter, and they said, no, we'll add it to the loan or whatever we'll do, but we're not going to default customers, because imagine if everybody starts defaulting their customers, it'll be mayhem. Right?
I know, it bummed me out. I was looking to go buy some stuff. It would have gotten cheap.
Yes, it would have, but...
They're still kicking the can down the road on a lot of the hotels in South Beach.
Yeah, certain things are kicking the can down the road, but that's real estate, though. That happens all the time. Just because, look, yes, interest rates, the way deals were underwritten in 21, and you get like these young analysts, they start underwriting things, they just look at it very myopically that's the problem with capital markets. They all follow kind of a herd mentality. Now, one of the things they did better this time was when they let out too much capital, it wasn't enough time. The problem was in the early 2000s, you had 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006. So imagine you have this flow of capital, which continued to just create a bigger problem. Whereas in 21, you had, a year and a half, 2 years, and then the capital markets froze again. And they stopped funding deals, and so you didn't get this, immense. I mean, developers want to build. If the capital's there, developers are going to build. They're going to be like, oh yeah. They always say this. Oh, people are moving down here. It's going to be fine. No worries. We could build an extra 50,000 units. It's like, no. There's an absorption. It doesn't matter, how many people move. You got to let things absorb. In 21. I think I was saying this earlier, I don't think I said this on the podcast, was in 21, I was, people asked me, are you going to launch a condo deal, right? Because there was left and right, every week you heard of a new condo deal being launched, and I said, no, I'm going to go buy land in Central Florida to build garden apartments. And look at me, garden apartments in Central Florida, like, what are you doing? And I said, because the only thing you're going to be able to get financed in 22 and 23 and 24 are garden apartments, and you can't build garden apartments down here. Garden apartments is basically anywhere from 3 to 5 story buildings, surface parking. So imagine a surface parking, what it costs a surface parking versus structured parking in a building. It costs you. In other words, I can deliver a garden apartment in Orlando, nice, really nice. When you're in the apartment, it's beautiful. It's just as nice as anything else. I can deliver a garden apartment for $285,000 to $290,000 a unit.
And that's wood up there? Is that wood frame?
Stick built, yes. Surface parking. Yeah. And so versus you're building, you want to build you're in for $600,000 a door. So you're over double. And so, what are you going to, at the end of the day, people don't make double in Miami than they do in Central Florida. This is why you're seeing actually some, migration out of South Florida to some places like Central Florida, because it's less expensive to live up there.
So how did you weather the 08 storm? Just work through everything?
Yeah, I mean, look, like everybody else, you had to keep yourself from, like, one of the big things is you don't want to have bankruptcy. Because there's always, every lawyer says, you have creditors after you're like, oh, go bankrupt, you can wipe them out. I'm like, oh yeah, that's going to be great for my reputation, Not only the first thing when you get a loan, right after what I did actually, I did what worked out for me and why I was able to keep developing was I went and worked for free and helped all of my lenders get out of their deals. I helped them sell land. I helped them, finish projects. I helped them do anything. Some gave me some fees to finish projects, and what I said to them, they're like, what do you want in return? I said, I just want a letter of recommendation. I just want just a letter. And when I had to go back to get loans, the first question lenders would ask you, oh, how did you do same exact, how did you do in '08? What happened? And I had a stack of letters that I would put in front of lenders, and it was great.
That's a mic drop moment. Here you go.
Here it is. I mean, here was how I did in '08, and I kept very solid relationships with my lenders. Some of these guys were my friends. We used to go hang out. We had drinks together. So I kept the relationships open, and I helped them get out of deals, and that in turn helped me get back on. I was CMBS approved, I was Fannie Mae approved, like everything within a couple years after the recession. I was able to get big construction loans because of that, because I had no litigation. I mean, other than there was what's called friendly foreclosures, which are somewhat litigation, but they're not.
Deed in lieu type stuff?
I'm sorry?
Like deed in lieu type stuff?
Yes, deed in lieu,
yeah.
but so that was, let's say, the only
Right.
type of litigation I was in, but, I was very friendly.
That's about as unscathed as you can be coming out of that.
I saw developers like fighting with their lenders and trying to, fight their foreclosures or whatever it was, and it was just stupid because they weren't going to win. The deals were so far underwater that why are you fighting? What are you fighting for?
Right.
You're not going to win, and not only that, you just burned a relationship, or essentially you burned your career.
Right. That relationship and potentially future ones.
Yeah. Because the question is going to be, I sued all my lenders. Right. Oh, okay, great. Right. I don't want to give a loan to this guy. That's not gonna work out. So, so it was important to do that, and getting those letters is really what got me, able to get back into business, get loans again.
2012, start buying again, you said? That's when you got back into acquisitions?
Yeah, development. So I was buying distressed. I bought about over $250 million distressed during. It's funny. I had more employees, maybe the same amount, but almost at a certain point I had more employees during the recession than I did when I got back into development.
Why is that? Legacy employees or?
No.
You staffed up?
No. It wasn't that. I was during the recession. I was buying non-performing notes. So I'd be buying mortgages. So back to that story I remember 2009, someone come up to me and says, I just bought a mortgage at 85% of the note value. I'm like, yeah, but the house is worth 50% of the note value. Like you're an idiot.
Yeah.
And so in 2011 and 12, we were buying at 48 cents of the value of the real estate. Forget about the note value. Note value was not relevant anymore. And Bank of America and Chase and all these groups had tons of paper that they wanted to sell. And it was great because by then, you'd buy the note, you'd call the owner, right, of the home. I had a whole system, like, 'cause I was buying hundreds of them. I wasn't just buying one or two notes. I built an entire organization around buying notes, going through the system. But the first thing we did was we called these owners and said to them, look, you could stay in your house. So let's say their house was worth $200,000, right? And they had a $350,000 mortgage. We said to them, look, we're going to take your $350,000, we're going to wipe out $150,000 and give you a $200,000 mortgage on your home. Which, by the way, 2 years, 3 years later, their house is worth $250,000, $275,000. They got all, most of their equity back. But from us, we were buying that note for $100,000. So I would take the note, make it a $200,000 note, do a bunch of them, package them, and sell them. I mean, it wasn't development. And it was funny because at the time, there was a fund out of Toronto, actually, that was funding, and they had different divisions, and they wanted me to be the CEO. They wanted to consolidate everything, and they wanted, we're going to go against Blackstone, and they wanted me to be the CEO, because I was the one division that put together a management system to manage things. Imagine you're managing. So that was different. That was dope. So what I also did was we had about 15, we were buying probably 50 to 100 homes out of foreclosure a month, fixing them, renting them, and basically managing them. But no one can figure out at the time, how do you manage single-family homes in different locations? We all had experience managing apartment projects. It's easy to send the maintenance guy in the golf cart to, go to apartment 201, and he just drives a golf cart. But you're like going to a single family. And even back then, I got these little ways to track, because you don't know if your maintenance guy, he's like, oh yeah, I was in this house all day fixing the house. Like, the guy was probably sitting home drinking beer. It's like, you don't know what he was doing. And so we used to put little things in to track them and determine how long when they were in the house, what were they doing, what was the change, like what was the work order that they had to do. And that's why these guys were like, oh, we could take on Blackstone and we could be the biggest single family home guys. And boy, were they pissed when I said no, because at the time I was already starting to develop. And as a matter of fact, it was the funniest thing, but that day when I was sitting in the conference room talking to these guys and they were telling me they want me to be CEO, I remember stepping out and taking a call, and it was Nitin Montwani calling me saying, hey, we got the funding for Paramount. We're going to be moving forward with that deal. And that's when I was like, thank God, because I was like, they're sending me to like North Carolina and Sacramento, and I'm like, please. I live in Miami, like, you ever see what people look like in some of these cities? I mean, I'm like, I don't want to be there. I want to be here, and I want to develop. I was a developer. I'm like, I can't do this. Like, I was doing it because
it's enough financial engineering.
It was very opportunistic.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I can't do this for a living. That's not. I needed to create. I needed to build. I mean, that's in my blood.
So you're packaging the notes, rewriting them, and then selling the notes, not the real estate.
No, but there was people back there. So in 2009, I would never have the heart to foreclose on someone who just lost their job, right? By 2013, 14, these people hired lawyers. They haven't paid their mortgage since 08, and they're staying in their house for free. And now you're like really fighting with them, because like, okay, now you're taking advantage. Your neighbor, all your neighbors are paying a mortgage and you're living for free. Like, come on, you're taking advantage now. Now you got to get out. So, and these people would fight you. They'd hire these lawyers. It was cheaper for them to pay the lawyer than it was to pay their mortgage. And so no, there was a big percentage of them we'd have to foreclose and then either sell the homes, or we'd throw it into our other business where we were fixing them and renting them.
This episode is brought to you by Built World Advisors. Yeah, that's us. We're not your typical commercial brokerage. We combine deep market knowledge with a media platform that actually connects to people doing deals: the developers, brokers, architects, and attorneys.
Let's not forget the investors, Ben. From warehouses in East Hialeah to off-market gems in Allapattah, we help you find value where others aren't looking. If you're tired of waiting for opportunities to land in your inbox, let's talk.
Built World Advisors, real estate for the people who get shit done. You can check us out at builtworldadvisors.com.
So what year did you get the call from Nitin that you got approved that you got funding for Paramount?
I'm sorry?
What year was it when you got the call from Nitin about Paramount?
I remember designing Paramount in 14. So it could have been 13, 14, right around then. So right around then, yeah.
And initially, the idea was to build a mall there, wasn't it?
Yes. Oh my God, what a disaster! That was really tough. You want to hear that story?
Yeah.
Nick doesn't like when I tell that one.
Good.
It was. It's all public knowledge, but so it was. There was a Macy's and a Bloomingdale, if you could imagine. And I had Paramount right on top. And these guys, I'm telling you, they were difficult. These mall guys, I mean, difficult, because we had to do shared parking. So we had to do all these cross easement agreements. Our pool deck was on top of their mall. Like, it was really hard to deal with these people. And they had a lot of lawyers and very emotional people too. It must be a retail thing, I don't know. So I'm building the building on top of it. And I pre-sell, so I pre-sell Paramount, maybe 35-40% sold. I got probably almost $175 million in sales, and I started my piles. And this is the end of 2015, and Macy's stock takes a tumble, major tumble. And basically, at the end of 2015, and these guys, by the way, the mall, this was Taubman Malls, they're a public company, they spent a lot of money. I mean, they had full sets of construction documents. I mean, there was a lot of money spent. You never thought they would walk away from this deal. And sure enough, I have a building on top of a mall that just disappeared. And not only that, we had brochures showing Bloomingdale's, Macy's, and everything else. So I had to sit down with the rendering guy. Literally, when you see the plaza where Apple is in that whole area, I literally sat down with the rendering guy for 6 weeks and redesigned the entire that part of Miami Worldcenter to create a high street retail, because that's what it is today, and have to reignite my sales. My sales were dead. That was it. The project was technically almost canceled.
And were you selling mostly to international buyers?
I mean, it was always, Miami's always been mostly international buyers. So I mean, that was typical. It was a lot of international
But
buyers.
what made him walk? Just this tanking stock price freaked him out? Like,
no, Macy's was going down. That's it. I mean, look what happened since then. They're pretty. I mean, the only reason Macy's is alive is because when they used to make deals, when you brought a Macy's to a mall or any type of retail, they would give you the land. So you own that real estate.
Yeah.
So the only reason Macy's has any survival rate is their balance sheet's loaded with real estate.
Yeah.
So they have this great balance sheet with real estate, but their operating retail stores are a disaster. If they based the value, there wouldn't be Macy's around anymore. They would have been long gone. But because of the real estate owned, is really what makes that work.
so redesigning to high street retail, was that more what you wanted anyway from the beginning, or because that's kind of your mixed use, like?
You know what? It's hard to tell. I mean, I'm selling a mall. We had the private elevators opening the third story of the mall, and you walk outside from your apartment to the mall. So, I thought it was pretty cool. What did I want? I mean, I don't know. At the time, I didn't want, to have a mall disappear. Not only that, think of my structure. The reason why, I don't know if you ever heard, like, when we marketed Paramount, it's like the most amenities in the world. If anyone heard that, but the reason it was the most amenities in the world was there was floors where the mall was, that suddenly we got all that back in our building, because, the mall was the 3 stories plus whatever, so we were up above it, and it wasn't a regular 3 stories, right? It wasn't, you're talking probably 20-foot ceilings on every floor, maybe more. And so we ended up taking that space back and creating more amenities. We had a basketball court and racquetball. Like, we had to start thinking of amenities, and that's how Paramount actually has 46 different amenities, and that's one of the reasons.
I think the high street retail integrates better with the city. I mean, it will once it's done.
I agree. Having a mall wasn't the right thing.
Right.
The way it is today, the way Miami Worldcenter is today, with the open plaza and the Apple Store and everything, that should have been designed that way from the beginning. I agree with you. And so you're right, from a urban standpoint, urbanism standpoint and everything else. And again, Nitin did a great job with, Nitin and Art again did a great job with, redoing all. I don't know if you know, they got $77 million in bonds, CDD bonds. Community development, I don't remember, something CDD, maybe what CDD stands for, but they're community development bonds, right? And basically, all of Miami Worldcenter is at the highest point in Miami from a flood level. I think we're like 13 or 14 feet above sea level. We have 18-foot sidewalks. We have open plazas, pavers. We have, 5 blocks of pedestrian retail there. So, and we closed streets off. So, that was a big public-private partnership. But rebuilding the infrastructure, I thought, was something that was great, that they redid all the water and sewer and, drainage and all of that.
I mean, it's amazing how different that area feels now.
Yeah, when you walk there, it feels like
it's crazy.
It feels like a different. Like, if you go to downtown and then you walk to Miami Worldcenter, you could feel it.
Oh,
you could feel the newness of just the streets and the sidewalks, and and it's because of the CDD that Art and Nitin put together for that deal.
Are you going to eventually build? Are you involved in the Apple Store or no?
No.
Okay. Are they going to build vertically there eventually? Do you think, or
no?
No.
I mean, no. I don't think so.
Feels like a hell of a lot of air rights to just leave.
I think again, I don't. don't quote me on this one, but I think that when we did our final site plan approval, I think we left that as an open plaza and shifted the density. But that was more Nitin's side, so I would let him answer that. I'm sure he'd be like, Kodsi, why are you saying that? That's not what happened. But yeah.
Misinformation.
Yeah. No, it's something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I believe that's what we did. Look, it's easy, right? You could transfer, because Miami Worldcenter was just one master plan. And so it didn't have, so Miami 21, none of that affected us. We had our own master plan. So we were able to shift density within the master plan.
Got it.
And so I think that density was already gone, and so it doesn't exist anymore because it was shifted to the other sites
Makes
within
sense.
Miami World
Yeah,
Center.
yeah. And when was Paramount Bay completed? Was that like 2013?
Paramount Bay was delivered in 09.
09, okay, wow.
That was one of the ones that I had to finish with my lender and
Okay.
help them get out. I got them out pretty much whole in that deal. Yeah. Not great for my equity investors, but
It's a beautiful building.
the building is great. I mean, the building was a classic. You know, people always tell me like, "Wow, that building!" Like some people who live there and everything else. And we did it right. You know, you don't know if you ever noticed the reason the building turned was. I remember I specifically said at the time, I said a unit looking west and a looking unit east cost the same, but the values are significantly different, right? Because one's looking at the water, one's looking at whatever, West Dade County. And so what I did was, the reason the building turns like that was we were able to get 30% more linear feet of water frontage by making the building, and by turning it, when you're in the unit, you actually see the bridges, and it's open bay, but you actually see it nicer because you see the 595 bridge lit up at night, you see a little bit of the skyline. So we maximized the waterfront. It was the first private elevator building at the time. I remember talking to George Perez about it. He's like, "What? You're in a luxury building in Edgewater? Are you out of your mind?" You know, because that was like an area that was really bad. I mean, this was a bad, bad place. And
Especially that time, it was still really tweener.
Yeah. Well, that project. So there's an old movie called "There's Something About Mary." And so there was the house that movie was made. And if you didn't see it, I recommend you see it. It's definitely a funny movie. But it was filmed, and that house was right there in the middle of the house. I don't want to tell you what happened to that house.
But that's pretty cool
that's a
that,
sad story.
like someone like George, right, like who is a visionary, is telling you that you're fucking crazy for building something with private elevators, right? And it works.
It works to the extent it worked because we sold it. But then at the recession, a lot of buyers didn't close. I mean, it was messy in the recession, but you know what? You're right. Long term, every other building built in Edgewater was an emulation of Paramount Bay. No one ever built another building on that bay. Even George Perez came back. I think he built Icon Bay right after, and it was all private elevators, or at least something. It was all luxury.
Yeah.
So again, at the time, your mindset was, who's building luxury in Edgewater? Like, you couldn't see it, but when you're looking at that site and you see the bay and it had a basin coming in, you're like, this is beautiful. I mean, like, you got to see the future. So from a future standpoint, I mean, today when you look at it, the building completely makes sense, right? But back then, there was literally, there was drugs and prostitution, and I'm not talking about the fancy prostitution you see today in Miami.
like 11, for example.
I'm talking about some real street,
The grimy shit.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
So let's talk about Puerto Rico, because you own some property there too, right?
Yes. Yeah.
What's going on in Puerto Rico?
So we have a Malia hotel, and we turn into a Hyatt Regency. But we also had, I had a Rosewood project that I was going to develop there, but the capital markets turned on us. But we're reviving the deal now. It was right around 23, and then that's where the capital markets were not going to fund, an ambitious deal like a Rosewood in Puerto Rico. Whereas today, I think the market's going to shift back to something like that, and you'll be able to capitalize that. But what happened was our equity partner was a fund, and they started getting, again, if you know funds, the redemptions are essentially where people want to redeem their money, and so they got very nervous that they were getting all these redemption inquiries in 2023, and so we ended up canceling the deal. And it was unfortunate. I mean, we had everything designed, everything fully signed, hotel management agreement with Rosewood. We had all the consultants on board, all the interior designers. We had most of it designed. And then just like that, that was very upsetting, actually, to have something that far down the road where you're like not far from starting your pre-sales and then breaking ground and then.
Yeah, I mean, hotels are tough these days.
By the way, again, I don't want to say anything negative about any other asset class. I'm a residential guy always, and so if I do a hotel, it's only because I want to sell the residential.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I look at a hotel as an amenity, not as a business. I think hotels are very, very, very tough to make work. And so, but if you could do a well-branded hotel, like for instance, in a place like Puerto Rico, in a location like this, you needed the hotel because you need that transient traffic to feed the food and beverage. So the owners that actually buy condos have that amenity, so they could go to the pool, they could get a drink. So that's important to buyers to have the hotel. The brands like having the hotel. Obviously, they want to have a certain control of inventory. Even if you say, people will put it in the rental pool, it's not the same as being able to book a wedding, 6 months in advance, and not having an owner saying, "Oh no, I'm pulling my unit out of the." Like, no, we have at least. Like, I don't give a crap. I'm moving in tomorrow. It's my home, and you can't do anything about it. And I don't care if I'm violating my agreement, right? What are you going to do about it? And so. So you have to build a certain amount of hotel rooms, and so that's part of it. But you're right, the hotel itself, if you look at it in isolation, is challenging. But the branded residential, is really where what you're doing is you're reducing your exposure in the hotel. So the hotel eventually does make sense.
And those branded residential projects are the flavor of the last few years. I mean, are you guys doing any of those deals? Other than the Rosewood thing?
We are. We're going to launch something actually in Aventura that'll be branded residential. And so we have one other one. And by the way, it's not the flavor of the last few years. I mean,
Well, in Miami, I'm just thinking of everything downtown.
No, I mean, we've been
Baccarat, Cipriani.
The developments. No, I get it. That's when they started going out of what you call the traditional branded. I still like the hotel brands as branded residential because of the fact that they have proven hospitality, and if you're going to go do a car building. What does it really mean? What's the level of service of a car building? Like at the end of the day, you could do if you're doing one car building, you say, okay, I could bring in a team and do a very high end. But if I'm going to go build 10 car buildings, right, across the country, then now you got to identify yourself. Are you Four Seasons, or are you a Marriott Gardens Inn, or whatever, or Hilton Gardens Inn, or whatever. So, where do you fall in the spectrum? Because in the hotel market, there's different. You have the middle, upper class, upper class, luxury. Like there's different sectors within the hospitality markets. And so if I say to you right away, hey, I'm going to do a branded, Four Seasons, you have a certain feeling in your head, like, oh, it's going to be ultra luxury, it's going to be well serviced and everything else. But if I say I'm doing, I'm going to try to not name a building that's already a car, a Toyota building, because then someone's going to say you're picking on my building, right? But if you're going to do a car building, let's just say, what's the expectation, right, of the service? Like, what is it really, besides the fact that it's named after a car? Is there really any expectations? And then, the benefit of having hospitality is they have the hospitality experience, combined with the fact that you know where you stand. If I'm buying at a Ritz-Carlton, I know I'm going to get Ritz-Carlton type services, and so
There's
on and
brand
so
standards there. Yeah.
yeah, and so I like the hotel brand, and that's been going on for a while.
For a long time.
Yeah, it's more of the, these more, Baccarat. And even Baccarat, that's not true. So Baccarat, you could get a great hospitality experience in New York. I've stayed at the Baccarat. It's beautiful.
I'm sure.
And they did a great job with, with the service and everything else. So they do eventually, start to build that, back of house, management, for the, for those type of, Baccarat, I know, has made a commitment of building hotels and residential. So those are the ones that I like if we're going to do branded residential. But some of the ones that you just name it after, whether it's a car or something like that, yes, that's relatively newer.
So when you set out, you were in the family business. You wanted to build an organization. You wanted to build a big company. It seems like you did it. I mean, what's next?
Yeah.
And something else we didn't talk about before I go on that route was you launched a finance arm too, didn't you?
Yes. So I launched Participant Capital, and actually the kind of why I launched Participant Capital was in 2011. And what happened was, it goes back to when I was buying distressed real estate, was I had a lot of people calling me, a lot of friends, hey, I want to get into real estate, but this guy has 100,000, 50,000, 200,000. And so when you're buying large institutional deals, I'm buying $30 million, bundle of notes. Like, you can't go to Chase and I want to buy 2 notes. Chase is like, no, we're putting out 150 notes tomorrow, and it's going to go to bidders, and you got to bid on it, and that's it. And it's 34 million. The guidance on it's $30 million, $34 million, and you got to go out and buy it. And so I was going the institutional type capital, which I was already accustomed to working with, and I can't put a $100,000 guy as an LP partner with a $20 million equity guy. So I created Participant Capital as a way for individual investors to participate with institutions, which is great for the individual investor because if I'm an investor and I'm investing in a real estate deal and we're the only equity in the deal, something goes wrong, which it always does, someone's got to write a check, right? And if the developer or someone doesn't have it, then you're going to either have to write a check. If you don't have it, you're going to lose all your money. And so when you're in a deal, and I've seen it happen many times, you're in a deal with an institution and someone's got to write a check and you can't go back to your smaller investors. You're not going to go to your $100,000 guy and say, hey, we need $5 million because we're over budget. That's where the institutions step in and they protect the deal because they want to protect their interest in the deal. And so that we've had a lot of success in participants, and that people like the whole concept of, and not only that, like in their heads they're like, well, why would I invest in this deal? And the answer is, well, this institution who has, analysts and everything else is underwriting this deal and they're doing it. So there's also that safety as well. If they're going to do it, then, what do I know compared to an institution that's underwriting a project?
A lot of eyes on it, yeah.
So
do they have to be
accredited investors?
Okay.
Yeah, you want them accredited. You could do investors that are not accredited, but that's
because you said 150. That's less than the, isn't it? What is it?
No, it was.
Oh, 250 is the minimum.
No, that's your net worth has to be $1 million, and you have to have at least
250 liquid
income.
or something.
It was. I don't remember all the
Something
rules,
like
but
that.
yes, but you can. The investment amount is as discretionary. That doesn't matter. It's more the the qualifying as an accredited investor, and you want that. I mean, you could do what's called Reg A's, where you could open it up to anybody to invest. But look, in reality, especially at our size, we're going to get a guy put in $5,000. When you're doing
that's a headache you don't need.
I have over $1 billion+ in development, over $1 billion in pipeline. You don't even want to deal with that, right?
But even like anyone could be an accredited investor. No one checks, right? Like you just have to sign a document,
Depends.
and
it depends. Yeah, some do, some don't.
Yeah. But
Listen,
it's tough to dig in and find out if they're accredited or not.
It is tough, but look, but it also is you do that really to protect yourself,
Yeah.
right? Because you're basically saying, look, I didn't just go to some old
Exactly.
lady that couldn't afford it and shouldn't have invested in, let's say, what can be considered a risky investment. So you assume that an accredited investor is astute enough to make that decision.
Ben, let's open it up to some of our students and guests that are here today for questions as well.
Okay, so I got the mic. We'll do a lightning round. Very different than in the studio. You got a live audience, so we can do questions. I get to start because I got the microphone. I want to go back to you're 26. You're building single-family houses. It's what, mid-'80s?
Mid-90s.
Oh, it's already the mid-'90s by then?
Yeah, come on, you can't age me here.
Yeah.
I graduated in 91. So.
All right. Well, then I was going to ask you what the interest rates were.
They were high. I mean, they were a little, probably even higher than today. I remember a textbook one time using 5% as an interest rate and thinking in my head, oh my God, that's so cheap. I mean, in the 80s, we were in the double digits. In the 90s, I would say we were in the high singles. Yeah, it's incredible how interest rates then versus today, you would think, back then you would think that, today's rates were great.
Yeah.
Yeah, whereas, we got a little bit spoiled with the lower interest rates.
All right, and my second lightning round question, because it's just a quick one. You're 26, you've built 1,000 units, it's you've emptied your pockets, you're all in on these deals. Were you married?
No.
Okay.
I didn't get married until I was 33.
Hey Dan, thanks for coming today. I have a quick question. Again, a bunch of us are students, and when we're young here, like if you had to tell us, like, if you're going to go down like 3 paths, what do you say? How do you really become the best developer you can at a young age? Would you say go down and the capital path and try to meet capital providers, go down the deal path and try to become a deal collector, or really become a great underwriter and financial modelist?
I think the second one is deal, right? I always tell young people, if they can so what you have to do, it goes back to my point of being in it to win it, right? So what I did, for instance, in 2003, there was a couple of young aggressive guys that would go and tie up properties. And so even when I went to do Paramount Bay, believe it or not, somebody flipped that contract to me. It was a young guy. He got there was 6 different sites because there were homes there. And he got them all under contract. The zoning was there, but there were homes. And he got them all under contract, and he sold me the contracts.
That's the Edgewater play.
Yeah, and so the answer to that is if you're young, I always say, there's right now when there's not a lot of capital, land has been sitting, you get these tired landowners that want a solution to their property, especially if they bought it for development. And so if you can tie it up and say, hey, look, I know developers, I can put it together. So if someone came to me and the market started getting really good, so let's say you tie something up and the market's not great, because that's when you want to do it. You don't want to do it when the market's doing well, because then all the prices are overinflated. But when the market's not good is when you got to go make your buys. And so what you do is you talk to a landowner and you say, you put it together. And then what you do is, if your timing's right, you got to be careful on timing, but if you can get to that right timing, and you're in it to win it, right? And the market does swing up a little bit, and now there's more desire for sites. Suddenly you're sitting on a site, you can go approach a developer and say, hey, look, I don't want anything. I'll give you the contract, but I want to stay in the deal. I want to get a piece of the action, and I want to work at the project and learn. And at that point, you're doing a few things. One, you can make yourself some pretty decent money, but 2, you're starting to build yourself a track record on working on a project. And these don't, you don't have to go lock up a 50-story building. You could find smaller things, and things that are more manageable. It's going to be harder for you to go convince a landowner, I just graduated college or whatever. I'm going to tie up your $25 million site. That's a tougher sell. When this young guy is buying lots from people, so, individually, he looked credible that he could go buy their lot and tie it up and put it under contract. And it's all how you design that contract, putting in the right contingencies, right? So you want to put it in where we only close on approval, and but you still have to come up with a certain amount of capital. You need the deposits, you need some soft costs. You might want to hire a lawyer to take it through the approvals. So you're showing activity to the landowner that I'm going to get it entitled. So when the market's ready, you're going to have a ready-to-go entitled site, and that's how you kind of really get your foot in the door. And so you're not spending a lot. You try to keep the deposit low, and you manage those soft costs. In the old days, it used to be a lot cheaper to rezone deals. Today, it's a little bit higher, but you try to find maybe a second. Maybe you don't go to the biggest firm for your zoning lawyer. You go to a guy that's maybe has got a smaller firm and rezone the project.
Hey Dan, thanks for coming out today. So you kind of touched on my question a little bit with what you were just saying. But somebody like me, young guy in his younger 20s, how can somebody like myself stand out trying to get into real estate development? Because obviously post 2008, it's harder to source debt. Somebody like me also doesn't have so many deals under their belt. How can I build that reputation for myself and get involved in real estate development?
Well, you're saying to get involved with working with a firm, or?
Getting involved with working with a firm, getting involved on your own deal. Do you recommend starting with a firm, getting experience there first, or just finding a proper deal and then connecting with a developer and then just tagging along with them?
And again, it depends. Do you want a job or do you want to be entrepreneurial? And because when you're putting a deal together and you're in your early 20s, and unless you have maybe parents that are helping you out, you're essentially not getting a paycheck. And so if you can live without getting a paycheck, then I'd say sure, go and try to be entrepreneurial and do something. If you need a paycheck, then the latter one is you got to get a job, make yourself as valuable as can be. It depends on the job that you want, right? In other words, in development, you want to be in the construction and development and the finance, right? So you excel in that part, architecture, design. I mean, there's so many different components to it. Excel at that part and try to get yourself in with a company that, you can show, handle certain positions within the company.
Thanks, Dan.
So thanks for coming in. So you mentioned maximizing the waterfront view on one of those, I forget what the project was.
Paramount Bay.
Paramount. Does something like that, does that come with experience, talent, just to have that mindset on how to maximize that space, or just for any project, is that coming with talent, experience, just, I guess, how are you reaching out to someone? Is that all you?
I'm going to have to answer that one with necessity is the mother of all inventions. It's an old saying. I don't know if you guys hear that one as much. And so the necessity was that the deal doesn't underwrite very well if you can't get the waterfront premium of what, in other words, if you looked at comps in the market at the time, this is what a waterfront unit would sell for, and this is what a non-waterfront unit would sell for. And there was a significant difference. And so, you have to come up with ideas and you have to think about it. And so, so you start thinking to yourself, okay, how do I maximize waterfront in that case? And I don't remember who comes up with it, but you also got to have strong people, a good team around you. It could have been one of my architects that said, well, what if we did this, right? I don't remember exactly how that came about, but then you also got to be smart enough to recognize, oh, that's a great idea, let's do that.
But the construction costs are more expensive as well than building a box, right?
Correct.
So
right.
you
now
got
you're building something that's not exactly, literally in the box. It's a little out of the box, right? And so it's might be more expensive to build, and so you have to take all that into account.
Yeah, I just wanted to use the maximizing the waterfront as an example, but basically tailors to all the ideas. So I appreciate it.
Hi, thanks for coming out. My question is more tailored towards the finance side for participant capital. On the fund side, are you sourcing capital from the US or outside the US? And then those high net worth individuals, what kind of returns are they looking at?
So the answer is both. So we do funds that are both US based and out of the US, and they're completely different funds, even under, you have go under Regulation D versus Regulation S, which would be an international fund. So that was your first, what was the second question? Returns. Look, the returns that we typically do, we'll show them development type returns. It depends how you raise the capital, also based on the returns. Like for instance, we had a fund that we sold through financial advisors. That's a higher commission fund. It's more expensive to sell because now you're going and you have to, what happens when you sell through financial advisors, you have to go to their firm. They have to first underwrite your fund and approve it and put it on their platform so their advisors could sell it to their clients, right? Otherwise, it's not allowed. Otherwise, anyone can come in and then try to, raise a fund that's not legitimate. And so, so depending on that cost, the returns, again, look, if you're doing a development deal and you're taking development risk, then you want to be in those high teens, depends what level of development risk, right? If you're doing a high rise, you want to be in those mid-20s to mid to high 20s. If you're doing a mid-rise apartment, maybe in the low 20s, and if you're doing garden apartments, you could be high teens, low 20s, because of the risk factors. I don't know. The first day I remember in finance class it was a graph, right? And it was a line, and it's called the risk reward line, right? So the higher you go on the reward, the higher you're going to go on the risk. And so, but we go anywhere from high teens to low 20s typically. And if it was like a higher commission fund, it would be mid to high teens.
So obviously, if you were to invest right after, like when everything is redevelopment risk-free, then they're going to be getting less return than someone who came in very.
The timing, you're saying someone who comes in earlier during pre-development versus development. So we have to deal with that. What we do is we put certain prefs on the people that came in pre-developments to even them out. Or we give them, for instance, better economics. So let's say if you come in at the beginning and you're coming in at a lower land basis, because let's say we're doing a rezoning, so you're taking, let's say, entitlement risks. Now that once the land's rezoned, the value of the land goes up, so you get in now at a stepped-up basis, right? And so the new capital coming in is going to be at that stepped-up basis. So you you have to get rewarded for taking that risk, or it's not going to work. Because the person's like, well, I'll come in the last day right before you finish the project and I'll invest, right? So you have to pay for timing.
So I'm mindful of the time, but there's two more questions, and I'm going to ask them to come down and ask them directly as your hosts wrap up here, after your hosts wrap up.
So I can speak loud enough. You can hear me, Dan? Thank you for being here. A couple of comments first. The Paramount development, I mean, with such an ambitious building, I think it disrupt the skyline or enhance it. There's a lot of opinions, and I really think it's brought a lot of energy. I think there's a lot of risk with that size building, and what people think, and I just want to compliment it. I think architecturally and how it lights up, I think really confuses the city. It's a great statement. I mean, thanks. I mean, I know when they built the World Trade Centers, now I'm showing my age, people hated the World Trade Centers in New York, that is, initially. But architecturally, I thought, congratulations. I think, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we designed a lot of that in-house. And I wanted I had a vision for a shiny building. My architect at the time says, I came up with all that on my own. And I showed him there was a video game that my daughter was playing at the time, and they had these, I don't know if you noticed, the Paramount has these bars going across. And I sent him this old picture from the video game, and I'm like, no, you know what? Some of these ideas came from this futuristic city in a video game my daughter was playing. So it's funny sometimes where an idea will come from.
It absolutely adds energy to the skyline, and that's not easy.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a fun project. It's a great building.
Another compliment, clearly you're a pioneer in Miami, downtown in particular. And when I hear other developers speak, everybody's so optimistic, and for many reasons about Miami. I'm more curious on what concerns you. What headwinds do you think could derail? There's going to be bumps, but really derail the development of this city specifically downtown, I think. I look at Flagler Street, and I'm trying to wonder, it frustrates me, I guess, that I don't see more happening. I'd like to know if
I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. The problem is this, is what happened is construction costs, land costs, insurance costs, interest costs, right? And so all these costs have gone up so significant that what happens is it's just too expensive to build. And so when you look at the cost and the percentage increase of what costs have done, and you look at people's salaries, it doesn't match. This is why we're having a mismatch in the market today of why younger people, for instance, can't buy homes. Because it got too expensive. The land got expensive, so everything across the board got too expensive. And I believe that's going to be one of the biggest hindrances for the growth of any city, but especially for Miami, because we are building vertical and it's extremely expensive to build vertical construction. Imagine what a shear wall is. I mean, this is a small building, but a shear wall is this, it could be 8 feet wide. It's a wall, a concrete wall that goes up the entire building, right? So if I build a house, I don't need an 8-foot wide piece of concrete going through my home, right? Or through my, and so we don't realize how expensive it is to build these high rises. And so what I think is going to hinder our ability to build, that's why I was even making the point of not thank God for 08, I wouldn't have said that in 08, that's for sure. But some of the benefits of 08 was that all the buildings that they built, that we all built, all sold for 50% of what it cost to build, right? That's why that was why it all worked out, because everyone was able to come in and the dollar was cheaper at the time. So you had these international buyers buying things for 30 cents on the dollar. And when you buy it for 30 cents, you can rent it for less, and that's what created, so the biggest beneficiary of that recession was Miami, because we built so much product. That's what made Miami move. So, because people are like, how could it be in less than 25 years, we went from pretty much nothing to this city with hundreds of buildings? And the answer was that it was that reason, really. It was the recession that was we benefited from the fact that people were able to buy these units at, such a cheap price. But yeah, the future is going to be cost is going to be.
Saturated right now, in your opinion, is the residential market saturated downtown Miami?
So there's two types of residential market. You have the condo market and you have the apartments, the multifamily. We didn't build a lot of condo products in this last, let's say, cycle. But the problem is that the product that's built, look, you could say something's worth $2,000. It's beautiful. It's got a beautiful water view. It's on a high floor. It's worth $2,000 a foot. And you can make that argument it's worth $2,000 a foot. However, there's only so many people can afford to take a $4,000, spend $8 million on a unit. So it doesn't matter if it's worth $2,000 a foot. If I build 500 $2,000 a foot units that I could say they're all worth $2,000 a foot, and you might agree with me, I can't find 500 buyers that are going to spend $4 to $8 million. And that's the issue. The issue is that people say, I love it. Even the apartments, oh, this is beautiful. I could live on Brooklyn. How much is the rent? $5 a foot. Oh, wow. For 1,200 square foot, I'm spending, $8,000, but I'm making $120,000 a year. So pretty much 100% after taxes is going to rent. So how do I eat? So that's the issue.
All right, folks, we're going to end this. We've been up here for almost 2 hours. Dan,
Wow,
thank you so much for your time today. Thank you, everyone, for coming out.
Guys. Nobody's going to watch this video now. They're going to see 2 hours, and I'm not watching this. Who's going to spend 2 hours?
Believe it or not, people listen to us for some reason. Well, they listen to our guests, not us.
I'm kidding.
So
I'm
our
kidding.
guests are a
Maybe
lot
we
more
need to
interesting than we are.
just lie about how many. Oh, it's only a 40-minute video.
All right, everyone, thank you for joining us for this Friday happy hour here. Have a wonderful weekend, and thanks again, Dan.
Thank you again for
Appreciate
having
it.
me. I appreciate
Cheers.
it, guys.